Tribalism has played a major role in shaping Kenya's political landscape for decades. But how did we get here? And what can we do to change it? Let's explore the influence of tribalism on Kenyan politics. In pre-colonial times, ethnic communities lived in distinct regions with their own governance structures. But when the British arrived, they introduced divide and rule policies, favoring certain tribes over others. When the Native Lands Trust Ordinance came into force in 1928, it marked a turning point in colonial Kenya's land policy. The law promised to reserve lands forever for the benefit of native tribes. But who were the first to benefit? From the sweeping plains of the Maasai to the rich highlands of the Kikuyu in Kiambu and Nyeri, entire communities were granted land, not as owners but as tenants of the crown. The Maasai received over 14,000 square miles, the Kavirondo, the Meru, the Embu, the Nandi, each with vast tracts now named native reserves. It was a promise of protection, and yet a quiet partitioning of a country under colonial control. During British colonial rule in Kenya, not all communities had equal access to opportunities such as education. It mostly reached communities near mission stations and colonial towns. The Kikuyu, Luo, Kalenjin and Luhya benefited the most. Missionaries set up schools in their regions, and many became teachers, clerks, and early African leaders. But others, like the Maasai, Turkana, and Somali, were left out. Their nomadic lifestyles and remote lands meant little access to education, and even less attention from the colonial government. Education was not just a privilege, it was power, and only a few were allowed to hold it. By the time Kenya gained independence in 1963, these colonial policies had already ingrained tribalism into the country's socio-political fabric.
Uhuru, independence for Kenya. Guests at the independence celebrations are presented to Prince Philip. In line here, Mr. Duncan Sands, Mr. Malcolm MacDonald, the new Governor-General, and Jomo Kenyatta, ex-Mau Mau leader, now Prime Minister. So, after 68 years of British administration, Kenya becomes a sovereign African nation. A time of rejoicing, not surprisingly mingled with some regret. Many Europeans who've grown up with Kenya now regard themselves among the dispossessed. Prince Philip also opened the new independent parliament. The occasion, obviously enjoyed by its members, reminds us that it's with a British system of law and government that Kenya looks to the future.
After independence in 1963, political parties formed along ethnic lines. The Kenya African National Union KANU, led by Jomo Kenyatta, was dominated by Kikuyu and Luo leaders. While the Kenya African Democratic Union KADU, formed to oppose KANU, represented smaller ethnic groups, particularly the Kalenjin and Maasai.
Bwana Mgala, umejipatia kitu gani katika mazungumzo haya ya katiba hapa London? Nadhani tumepata mambo mengi yameachwa hayakubadilishwa, lakini kuna yale mawili ambayo ni muhimu kabisa katika maisha ya majimbo, yani utumishi wa serikali, yani public service, na mambo ya police, ambayo nguvu zake zimenyanyuliwa kabisa na kupelekwa katika serikali kuu, yani si serikali kuu hasa, katika vyama vya katikati wanavyoviita independent commissions, ambavyo mimi naamini ya kwamba ni kuwapa nafasi tu watu wa serikali kuu wapite kwa mlango wa nyuma kuchukua nguvu hizi. Hayo mambo unasema kwamba mmejipatia nyinyi wenyewe ni mambo kama kitu gani ambayo unasema kwamba yamewachwa katika katiba ya majimbo? Unaweza kutaja moja?
Well, mambo kama elimu, hospitali, local government, yani serikali za kimji, na mambo kadha ambayo yanajulikana yako katika mamlaka ya majimbo. Sasa haya kuguswa sana, lakini yale mambo jinsi ya kubadilisha ile katiba, yani percent 90% au 75%, yale mambo yale yameachwa pia, isipokuwa kitu kipya kimetiwa, yani kupata referendum ya 2/3 katika ya nchi nzima, na jambo hili ni jipya, lakini jambo ambalo.
1 year after becoming independent, Kenya now assumes Republican status within the Commonwealth. Jomo Kenyatta arrived at Jamhuri Park, Nairobi, to take the oath as president. The popular new president was sworn in by Sir John Ainley, the Chief Justice. After that came the induction of the Vice President, Oginga Odinga. These ceremonies were duplicated in the Swahili language, Senior Chief Oli Sangali officiating. Mr. Kenyatta went to the airport with the retiring Governor-General, Mr. Malcolm MacDonald, whose diplomatic mission to Kenya ended with the presidential appointment. The wind of change has on other occasions similar to this blown just as harmlessly, largely because of Mr. MacDonald's gift for winning the confidence of the peoples he served. To most Kenyans, Republican Day was liberation all over again.
Throughout the conference, my party and I never deviated from these objectives, and our primary concern at every moment has been the future welfare of our country, economic, political, as well as social welfare. It is because I believe this so strongly that after very careful consideration, I have agreed to the formation of a coalition government.
Looking back today, I am glad to be able to say that KANU is proud of its contribution at this conference. We are fully prepared to cooperate in the task ahead and invite all other parties and sections.
However, after KANU consolidated power, ethnic rivalries deepened as communities vied for political and economic influence. Subsequent governments, including those led by Daniel Arap Moi, 1978-2002, and Mwai Kibaki, 2002-2013, continue to leverage ethnic alliances for political gain. Under Moi's regime, tribalism became institutionalized, with government appointments and resource allocations favoring his Kalenjin community and political allies. return to multi-party democracy in the 1990s did little to curb ethnic-based politics, as new parties often formed along tribal lines rather than ideological differences. During elections, tribal loyalty often outweighs policies. Political parties form alliances along ethnic lines and people vote for one of their own, rather than the best candidate. For instance, coalitions like the National Rainbow Coalition (NARC) in 2002, Jubilee Alliance in 2013, and Azimio One Kenya Alliance in 2022 were primarily structured around ethnic alliances rather than shared policy agendas. Ethnic kingpins play a big role in mobilizing communities' votes. These leaders act as brokers, negotiating power deals with presidential candidates in exchange for government positions and resources. Unfortunately, this system often leads to disputes, and in some cases violence, since it fosters a us versus them mentality that increases hostility between communities. One of the most significant events highlighting the dangers of tribal politics was the 7/8 post-election violence. After a disputed presidential election, ethnic tensions exploded into violence, leading to the deaths of over 1,100 people and the displacement of hundreds of thousands. The conflict, mainly between Kikuyu and Kalenjin communities, underscored how deeply tribalism had penetrated Kenya's political system. It also undermines the credibility of elections by shifting focus from policy-driven debates to ethnic allegiance. Independent institutions such as the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC) often face accusations of bias, with communities believing election outcomes are manipulated to favor certain ethnic groups.
They told us to migrate. Before we migrate, those people have arrived. They are cutting our people, killing our people. Even now, right now, there are people who have been burned there, killed there. They have not even been taken to the hospital. They are still there.
Once in power, leaders tend to reward their ethnic group with powerful positions in ministries, security agencies, and parastatals. This leads to nepotism and an unfair distribution of national resources. It also marginalizes communities that are not aligned with the ruling administration, leading to feelings of exclusion. On infrastructure, education, and healthcare is often skewed toward regions that supported the ruling party. Meanwhile, regions and constituencies that voted for the opposition frequently receive less funds or experience delays in government initiatives. This pattern of favoritism has caused economic disparities, with some regions experiencing faster development while others remaining underdeveloped. Tribalism undermines national unity. Instead of selecting the most qualified individuals for leadership positions, appointments are frequently based on ethnic allegiance. This practice leads to inefficiency and incompetence in public service, undermining governance and policy execution. Skilled professionals from marginalized groups may miss out on opportunities, deepening inequalities. Again, public funds are misused through nepotism, where government tenders and contracts are awarded to individuals with political connections. Efforts to fight corruption often face backlash, as those involved in scandals claim they're being targeted because of their tribe. This lack of transparency continues to weaken Kenya's economy and drives away both local and foreign investors. But all is not lost. Reforms like the 2010 Constitution and devolution have helped distribute power more fairly. The creation of 47 county governments was designed to decentralize power and resources, breaking the perception that development depends on one's ethnic ties to the ruling party. The Constitution prohibits ethnic-based discrimination and promotes fair representation in public service appointments. Additionally, institutions like the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC) and the judiciary were strengthened to ensure equal and fair political participation for all. National Cohesion and Integration Commission (NCIC) work to prevent hate speech and ethnic discrimination. Among its main tasks is the investigation and prosecution of those involved in hate speech or ethnic incitement. Civil society organizations like the Kenya Human Rights Commission, KHRC and Mzalendo Trust are advocating for issue-based voting and government accountability. Youth movements and social media have empowered young Kenyans to demand transparency and inclusive governance. Additionally, government initiatives such as school exchange programs, inter-county cultural festivals, and national youth service programs are enhancing inter-ethnic interactions, fostering national identity and unity. To break free from tribal politics, we must 1. Strengthen institutions that ensure fairness. 2. Elect leaders based on merit, not tribe. 3. Promote civic education and national unity. Kenya's future depends on us. Let's rise above tribalism and work toward a united, prosperous nation.